Sorry for my accent. I'm Brazilian. I live in Silicon Valley. I can speak Spanish, but I think it's better for you that I speak English. Muchas gracias por todos estarem acá. Mucho placer, Luis. ¿Cómo estás?
Tudo bem.
Yo estoy conociendo a Luis ahora. Habla portugués también, por una coincidencia, pero vamos a hablar inglés, ¿no?
Sí, podemos hablar portugués también si quieren, pero sí, I would suggest we go for English. But thank you, Fabio. It's a pleasure to be here. It's my second time actually at the South Summit. I was also a speaker in 2019, and it's great to be back and to talk a bit also about what happened maybe over last years. And 2019 we were talking a lot about 5G and the initial deployments of 5G. And here we are 4 years later, and there's still a lot going on. So yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. So I just met Luis, and he's from Portugal. I'm from Brazil. I think it's good that we introduce ourselves to the audience. I'm an investor for the last 20 years. I have been doing venture capital investments. I'm an electronic engineer. I did work at IBM, Lucent Technologies during the privatization time of the telecommunications in Latin America. I did 17 years of Intel Capital, that is investment arm of Intel Corporation. That's why I always have been very closely connected to Silicon Valley. In 2018, we launched what is Indicator Capital now. That is a venture capital fund. We did a Fund 1 and Fund 2. Fund 1, we did 15 investments, 4 exits, all in digital transformation, more cloud and artificial intelligence. Fund 2, that is the current fund, is an IoT fund. It's part of the IoT national plan for Brazil. My partners are based in São Paulo, Brazil. I'm the only one based in Silicon Valley doing the cross-border radar function and connection to the technologies in Silicon Valley, helping to deploy, accelerate IoT investments in Latin America. So we did 7 investments so far. Luis, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yes, so Luis Oliveira, I'm Portuguese. My background is more in finance. I used to be a financial consultant in a big firm in mergers and acquisitions, still back in Portugal. But then I decided to actually put my hands into my own business. I moved to the Netherlands in 2017, and I started back then a project with a mission to connect every single person and enterprise in the world to high-speed internet. And it's a big mission, but we expect at least to help accelerate the rollout. And that led me, over the last 5 years, building a team. We are about 15 people now in the company, and we are working with the top telecom operators in Europe, and now trying to also go over or cross border, or I would say cross the Atlantic, also to the United States. Although we also have projects in emerging economies like Brazil, but also in South Africa, Angola, Mozambique, and so on.
Very interesting. Yeah. At Indicator Capital, this national IoT plan for Latin America is to sponsor our LPs, our investors, our National Brazilian Development Bank and other government agencies, but also companies like Qualcomm Ventures, Telefonica, Motorola, Lenovo, multinational technology companies that are interested in deploying, accelerating IoT in the region, and 5G. So I think our 5G from the space transforming the IoT landscape is a very interesting subject. One of the third guy, he's I think more 5G from the space, because at least the name of the company, Jaume, maybe he will land from the space here soon. But
maybe Fabio, if you allow me a question, maybe also to make the link with IoT. So which kind of companies do you invest and you are looking for in the IoT space? So what do you find interesting?
Yeah, in the IoT space, our current thesis for this fund, we invest in the IoT ecosystem. So in terms of technologies, it's pretty much all the pillars of digital transformation. So we invest in sensors and devices. We invest that are collecting the data, Then you need to connect this data to the cloud, so you have all the connectivity, 5G or any other, connectivity. You send the information to the cloud. Of course, you process this information with data intelligence, artificial intelligence. You need to security. So all the pillars of digital transformation around the IoT ecosystem. And in terms of industry sectors, we are looking at sectors where the IoT can make the most of impact in the region. So we are across sectors, but we go deeper on Industry 4.0, health, because Latin America and Brazil, a lot of agri-tech, because IoT can play a very important role in bringing technology to the agri-space, agriculture space, and also everything that is smart cities, smart office, smart home. So these are the main industries that we are looking for, and technologies, again, is the whole digital transformation spectrum.
Okay. So if there is anyone here that is looking for funding and is on the IoT space, they should talk with you.
Yeah, especially if they are interested in Latin America. On Fund 1, we did a lot of cross-border deals. In Fund 2, we are looking a little bit more, at least the first check, it has to go to Brazil. Mm-hmm. But out of the 7 investments that we did so far, half of them are already doing internationalization. So some of them have offices in US, and some other have their solutions across the different countries, including Europe.
Yeah. I've seen recently that it's a report from GSMA that says that it's expected by 2025 that there will be 25 billion IoT devices all over the world. And that makes me think, because my company, and we are more on the backhaul part of the telecom networks, but it makes me think, you mentioned about agriculture. I've been meeting also a lot of companies, really interesting companies. They use robots, and they have all kinds of sensors in order to measure all kinds of parameters with the crops and the performance. And I think that's still today one of the problems that, especially in agriculture, which is based on rural areas or remote areas. And it's great that we have sensors and IoT devices installed there, but then it poses the question about how can actually those areas be connected to the internet and be able to transmit all that data to other places in the world. How do you see that? The demands and the different demands, or even especially with Corona and so on over the last years, the demands in terms of the edge of the network and that connectivity to the rest of the network.
Yeah, I think there are, in the agri space, there are 3 things that are important to consider. You have, it's a long cycle to adopt technology, just because of the way that the farmers, operate. It's like the health sensor, the health sector, it takes a little bit longer for them to adopt technology, but a technology is technology, it's like water. Once it enters, people see the benefits and they cannot live without it. So in large scale producing in the agriculture, they need a lot of technology, and they apply a lot of technology. So this is one thing. The second thing, yes, connectivity is a problem, especially when you go to the interior, very, spread out places. That's why where 5G can play a very important role, because 5G is not a one flavor of 5G. You have the low latence for, the smart vehicles in the cities. You have the very large bandwidth, but also you have the narrow band. You can. Hi. Here you go.
There you go.
Landing from the space. So we started, 5 minutes ago. He was asking about the impact of, the benefits on how to bring connectivity to the agriculture space.
Oh, yeah.
We already introduced ourselves. So maybe we make a break and you introduce yourself, and we can bring you to the conversation as well.
Okay, thank you very much for waiting for me here. I'm Jaume Sampera, CEO and founder of Sateo IoT. I'm Jaume Sampera, CEO and founder of Sateo IoT. Sateo IoT is a company that we created in 2018. This is my 8th startup. that I have been creating myself, okay, founding. Satellite IoT is deploying the first 5G IoT constellation from space. We are launching a small satellites that connects directly with 5G IoT devices. IoT since today has been exploding inside the cities, where there are already 5 billion things connected, but outside the coverage of the mobile operators, it has been super expensive till today. What we are doing is taking the same devices that today mobile operators are using, this $10 device, and connecting it in the middle of nowhere, where today only exists satellite options that it costs 10 times more minimum. Okay, then this is the company that we are, and of course agriculture, it's one of the key sectors where we are already seeing a lot of people asking for connectivity.
Yeah. So exactly where we were discussing now, in agriculture, you had a long cycle to adopting technology, but technology can make huge impact in agriculture, and a lot of people adopt a lot of technology. The second thing is the connectivity. Is one of the biggest problems in agriculture. So 5G, can bring with the narrow band or through the space, solutions to get everybody connected. So bringing, solutions to the agri-space. In terms of, as an investor, we invested in a company that is they bring different kind of IoT solutions. That I think is the third aspect, because I said it three things, right? The third aspect is even very simple solutions on things that you can deploy today that is ready for them. Simple, like the company that we invested, they have things that they can measure tanks of milk, in the producers, and they can apply, collect data and use artificial intelligence to identify mastiti, that is one of the main diseases in cows. So there are things that are today, with the current technology, you can solve problems and bring a lot of benefits. We are connecting, we invested, for example, in this company that is a consolidation of several solutions, especially for milk producers. But we also invested in another company that do the sensors in the end of the chain. That is the sensors that control the temperature of the refrigerators in the supermarkets.
Oh yeah.
So in the consumer space, and the same company acquire another company that do the sensors in the logistics, in all the transportation. So we connect all the solutions, and then you can create a systems of intelligence that you can control the temperature from the producers in the milk producers in the farm, up to the last end at the consumers in the refrigerators, and create a whole chain intelligence that can control the temperature from the point of producing to the point of delivery. So that's very interesting. So I think that is the third aspect. With current technology, you can deliver a lot. But then I was backstage talking with another person. He said, "Oh, you're going to talk about 5G and IoT." Oh, I used to talk about that in the 3G and IoT.
Yes.
So he said, how much evolved, and a lot evolved, and we are going to 6G. But I think one of the things that have evolved in 5G is exactly the solutions that are, alternatives that you can bring 5G, for example, from the space. And then I think you too can, comment about that, how can you help to bring connectivity, for example, in the agri, but it's also for, cities or industry or...
Exactly. Logistics, cattle management, maritime. There is a lot of sectors that, and as you say, okay, that the huge impact will be because all the solutions already exist, of our solution. What I mean is that when we bring connectivity in the middle of nowhere, we are just taking current solutions that today are deployed in certain places where there is already connectivity and extending it to everywhere. In cattle management, there are more than 50 companies, okay, that have devices for cows in order to assess when they have a good health, bad health, when they are pregnant, etc., etc. Okay, these same solutions is the one, okay, that today we have more than 10 customers that have already asked for connectivity. We are not already in commercial, okay, just to get it clear. We have launched 2 satellites till today. We are launching 4 more satellites this year in October. With these 4 satellites, we are starting the commercial phase. This commercial phase will be, we have global connectivity everywhere in the world, but just an average of 4 times per day. This means that right now we are addressing these applications that do not need real time. Next year, we are launching 64 satellites additionally.
Wow.
With these 64, we will be around 30 minutes. And by 2025, we are going to have 256 satellites that will be real time everywhere in the world.
And Jaume, if you allow me to ask,
yes,
how does that, so is it in a LEO Earth orbit? So,
yes, the satellites are LEO.
In a way, it's a competitor to Starlink?
No, thanks. Okay, Starlink, it's too much for us. Okay, well, what we are Starlink, as you know, it's a solution that is all LEO. It brings broadband connectivity. But of course, in order to connect it, you need a special antenna that costs you $500. Yeah. The huge differentiation is that you may connect very light connectivity or narrowband connectivity. When you talk about containers, there is a company that has already asked us about the service, that have already 400,000 containers, refrigerated containers with. We talk about 5G IoT, that, as you know, it's NB-IoT, narrowband IoT. That is it's the standard that today more than 170 mobile operators use everywhere in the world. Yep. And with these 400,000 containers, they already have this device. With Release 17, which is a software upgrade, just upgrading the software of the device, they will have connectivity everywhere. They will know exactly the temperature, humidity, if the doors are open or closed in any place. And this is the type of solutions that we love because the scalability is huge. You have the device, you have the application, all you need is connectivity in places where today, if you have to go with solutions like Iridium, which is the classical one, okay, they have connectivity everywhere, yep. It costs $200-300 each device. The devices that today you are using or people is using, it costs less than 20 euros per device. And it's exactly the same application, the same specifications, and you don't need to change anything on the device than the final. That's why we say that it's a revolution, because these 5 billion are just concentrated in 15% of the world. 85% of the world, it has 5 millions. Yeah. Okay, it's an order of 1,000 because of cost of connectivity and device.
Wow.
Luis, you mentioned that you are doing not fiber, but you are doing optics.
Yes.
Right? From the satellite to. Is his service?
No, I can explain a bit better. You touched upon a point which was there are different layers in the networks. There is 5G, there is 4G, there is 3G, there are satellites. And then we have fiber optics, radio frequency systems in the terrestrial network.
Physical level, right?
At the physical level. And we were talking before about agriculture applications and other applications that are located more on the edge of the networks or in rural areas, yes. In remote areas. And in our view, in my view, it's how can we use the existing infrastructure to increase the reach, the coverage, the capacity of the networks for all these applications. But even more important is how can we expand the quickest way possible the high-speed network so that we get to those areas. And that's where we started in 2017-18. We started with a project of using a different type of technology. It's called free space optics. You might have heard in space applications because it's being used by companies like Starlink or other companies to connect the satellites. So you use laser beams to transmit data at very high speed over very long distance in space. And we were inspired by this idea, and why not to do this, but in the ground? Why not to use laser beams over the air, completely wirelessly, but in terrestrial applications? And we started 2018, we started from the start working with the top telecom operators in Europe. We have a few projects currently in Europe, in Germany, and in Czech Republic. And we are now going, I'll say not only cross borders, but We are crossing the Atlantic and also looking into the US market, because it's a bit crazy, I think, in my view, in 2023, and some of the most developed countries in the world, Germany, United States, they still are lagging way behind in terms of broadband connectivity. If, for example, if we compare with South Korea or Japan, and that's where we want to solve. So we want to solve as fast as possible. How can we provide high-speed internet to everyone?
So you gave as example like the hills in Silicon Valley.
Yes.
That have very poor, fiber optics, because it's a very hilly spaces, and sometimes it's hard to get the fiber there.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And that's exactly our point. It's to provide the same speeds as fiber. So, but instead of having to wait months or years to deploy the fiber, dig in the ground, have 50 people of workload, then we just install wireless devices on top of buildings, telecom towers, and then we retransmit the signal, still at very high speed. We already tested last year data rates of 1.2 terabits per second.
Wow, that's high speed. Yeah.
And that's very high speed. Just to have an idea, is 1.2 terabits per second can connect 12,000 households to high-speed internet. And that's where we want to go. We are already involved in projects about 6G, so which is interesting. We still talk today about the applications, and we are still deploying 5G. But it's important now to think about the next generation and how can we define the standards, the needs, the customer requirements, so that in 10 years from now, we are also deploying the 6G, right? And
the interesting is that 6G, what we are doing is using a technology that was not developed for satellites, which is 5G, and application it to a satellite in narrowband. Okay, 6G, we are inside the 3GPP. The 3GPP is the global organization that defines the standards for the mobile industry. 6G is already being defined from a terrestrial and non-terrestrial point of view. Okay, satellite and mobile networks will be working together, fully integrated with our system already. With you have an NB-IoT device, a 5G IoT device, you have no idea if you are connected to a tower, to a cell tower, or you are connected directly to the satellite, because the experience is exactly the same. And with 6G, will be happening exactly the same with the mobile phones. You'll be going from terrestrial to non-terrestrial networks in a seamless way, in a fully seamless way, which is amazing because satellites are very good on coverage, terrestrial networks are very good on capacity. Then combining both is the best of the two worlds.
So how much you think we are ready to say that 5G from the space maybe, or even if it's not from the space, can really transform the IoT landscape? Because right now the reality is that 5G is not there yet, or is in the beginning to get there.
No,
so it's still a couple of years till we see a massive deployment of using 5G for the IoT landscape in a more,
Exactly. We are at the edge of a global revolution. I'm absolutely sure about it, okay? And the demonstration is that we are a small company. Right now we are 50 people based in Barcelona and San Diego. But we are not really, we don't have a name on the telecom industry yet, okay? Last year we start signing pre-orders for our service. This was more than 1 year, from 1 to 2 years before having the commercial service. And we have signed pre-order for more than 1 billion euros, okay, of connectivity, of a small connectivity, which we are in RPU of $1-2. This means what we signed is more than 100 million devices for year 3. And we are just starting, okay? Once we will be commercial, I'm sure that this will be ramped up. And will make a full difference in the IoT world, because standards makes everything. When there is a standard, I see a lot of companies that was out of the standard. I say out of the standard there is nothing, because you cannot compete in terms of applications. Okay, there is a lot of people developing applications over the standard in terms of economies of scale of the devices. There are hundreds of factories everywhere in the world developing devices that would exactly the same standard. And then the customers do not want to have a lock-in, okay, buying something that they know if they disappear, they will have to just start it from scratch. They want something that works with all the different operators and that we may move to one to other.
Do you agree, Luis?
Yeah, so in my perspective is always the question of demand. So when we talk about IoT and having billions and billions and an exponential growth in the deployment of sensors in different areas, different regions, then that creates the demand for building infrastructure, for deploying 5G, for deploying the backhaul. And although I think there was a bit the initial deployments of 5G, they were still trying to understand what are exactly the bigger needs.
The applications, yeah.
The obligations. And now I started by saying this before, that I was here in 2019 also in a panel talking about also 5G and the initial deployments of 5G back then. And 4 years later, we've seen a lot has changed, but we are still not in the level that was expected about having already 5G deployments everywhere.
I think I agree and disagree a little bit, because I think what we have seen in the last 30 years is that every year things are happening faster.
Yes.
And I think now with all these, large language models and AI, everything tends to accelerate even more. So I think we're going to see a lot of acceleration on many things, and it's harder and harder. 30 years doing, electrical engineer, working R&D, and then doing a lot of investments. You see these curves of adoption of technology every time faster, and I see my 10-year-old daughter, using technology in a much more efficient way than the way I use. Yeah. And I'm, 30 years professional, but she's 10 years old, and she can edit a video, in the cellular, much faster, just because she's more familiar with a lot of things that are already available. That it's impossible to, follow everything. Yeah. So we say IoT, we are talking about narrowband, agriculture, but also there is all the other aspect of the metaverse, the autonomous driving, everything is IoT. Everybody's already connected, or most people are connected. You still have gaps, but the bandwidth is everywhere. Everybody's getting connected, and now the things are getting connected, and the speed only get faster and faster and faster. So I think next 5 years is going to be incredible. I don't know. We are talking about 5G, maybe 6G is going to be, 5G might be, accelerating a lot of things. We're going to have gaps because, you still need gaps in energy, gaps in security, but I think, the next waves are getting faster and faster. I don't know, what do you think?
Maybe something to add.
Probably for us to close, because we have 2 minutes, so we can, sneak peek in the near future.
In a way, maybe linking something that you did with maybe my last message, and that's also related to the mission of our company, is that the world is still not fully connected, and there are still many reports saying that there are about 2 billion people in the world that don't have internet access at home. And I'm talking with a lot of companies, especially in Asia, Africa, but even South America, and even communities in the United States and Germany that are a bit outside of the city centers, and that simply they don't have yet a connection to the internet. And this is a bit, on one side, we talk about all the applications and all the increase in efficiency technology and all the problems that it's solving. But there is still also another angle that's creating an even bigger gap between the people that have connectivity.
Yes.
And we've seen that during Corona, because people that could work from home remotely in rural areas and so on. And there were people that simply could not and lost completely the access to the internet. And maybe this is my last message, that we should do something and look also into this. And I think the satellites can also help in that area.
Sure, satellites will be part of the solution. As you say, 5G is being developed, but not as broad as we may expect some years ago. Okay, and the reason it's the cost of deploying 5G is much more expensive than 4G, and this is increasing. Then the satellite solution, it fits perfectly on these places where there is no enough density of users, and balance the question of the economy of the deploying all these, okay, at the same time that you do terrestrial and satellite. Both together, it's a perfect solution that matches the needs of the final user, and at the same time the capability of investing of the mobile operators.
Yeah, fully agree.
Great. I think we are out of time, but I think it was a good way to finish. We have, a lot of incredible things to happen, but also a lot of challenges to help to solve. And I hope you enjoy our little chat here. And I think you probably can hear a lot of other interesting things around these themes in the other sessions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice
Thank you
to
very
meet
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.